Snowpack translates into crummy water supplies downstream and habitats for all of the things that you've seen over the last couple hours. They mentioned the compact that was made in 1922, but not too many years ago, about 20 years ago, a set of guidelines that actually kind of manages how water flows through the system were developed, and those are expiring at the end of this year. They must be renegotiated and they must be promulgated next year in order to have a management system that works. And the time is now. The states are negotiating, the federal government is negotiating, organizations like American Rivers are participating, trying to design what's next for the Colorado River, with the river in mind, with everything you've heard about in mind. And with your help, we're going to get it done. Ben?
Just want to just a little bit of behind the scenes. Whenever we began doing research on this project, kind of the first step was identifying the different storylines, and then identifying the different impact opportunities that exist in the Southwest, and then reaching out to folks like Sinjin, like the Peregrine Fund, like the Northern Jaguar Project, and kind of like how all these shots took so much passion from all the cinematography team. You know, behind every single one of the scenes was a research organization or a conservation organization that has spent their lives, you know, better understanding how the world works. And I kind of consider our job to be more of translators of their research. And, you know, as you could see during the credit roll, we were working with a variety of different NGOs and agencies and just folks trying to do the best they can. So on September the 5th, we're going to release the film across the Southwest in about 100 different theaters. And we're going to do a 45-day theatrical run followed by a widespread digital release. And within our theatrical release, we're going to have dozens of screenings across the Southwest trying to raise funds and trying to raise awareness for American Rivers and the Peregrine Fund and Northern Jaguar Project, and just trying to get out there and do as much good as we can for these organizations that are out there on the front lines. And it's a real, you know, immense honor to get to do this work. And, you know, I also want to give a shout out to all the foundations and individuals that make this stuff possible, as well as to the team, and especially to my mom and dad and my wife Katie and the whole team. Could y'all stand up, please?
Raise your hands.
But yeah, as a mom, I think biologically something kind of shifted in me, and I was so prepared for it to not. I was totally going to fight against it and be like, I'm not going to change. I'm going to like keep pushing and do all these rad things. And I have been back to Yosemite since, and it's been hard, and I've had hard trips, and it's taken a long time to kind of get excited for that style of climbing again, and it's coming back really slowly. But there's this other part of me that's like perfectly content with wherever I'm at, and that's the beauty of motherhood for me, I think, is I have like learned to be so fulfilled and happy with exactly where I'm at, and that's just been amazing. Like, I love climbing so much and I'll always be a climber, but I also love being a mom, so.
There's like a 10-foot shark, you're treading water for 8 hours apparently, there's no food, you're not going in, like what is the physicality and the mental grit that it takes to do this work? Oh, and take stunning photographs.
I've been preparing to do this for my life. Everything I've done, from starting swim team when I was 7, photography when I was 13, going into the Coast Guard, it all has been just this tumbleweed effect. And it's led me to where I am today. And through all of that, in each part of my journey, everything that I've started that was new was starting slow and starting at the beginning and working my way up. And it's all come together for me in water photography, being in the ocean, and I absolutely love it.
We can tell. Obviously, a huge storyline here is following your dreams and pursuing something that really speaks to you. And it sounds like you were doing this a little bit in your life. You're going to the Coast Guard, but maybe you're shooting on weekends. Do you get weekends in the Coast Guard? Okay. You're shooting at night. And it takes maybe this shift from your dad, who is a really driven person, as are you, and he's really pushing you to get a secure job, and maybe photography immediately doesn't appear that way. So talk about his illness and that being a catalyst for change and how that all came about.
I think, quite frankly, I went into the Coast Guard. That was the secure job. What I studied at the Coast Guard was marine environmental science, and that, as a lot of you know, is an environmental job, and those aren't typically very secure. So I was finding my own way to do something that I wanted to do, either marine science or photography. And I found a way that was that made sense to me with what my parents had always said about getting something you can rely on and have behind you, even if it simply gives you a very functional skill set. You at least have that before you go into the arts. And I think seeing both of my parents growing up, how they raised my sisters and I, and then seeing how they both handled cancer. My mom had breast cancer, and we got a year off, quote unquote, and then my dad got stage 4 cancer. Seeing how they handled themselves with that disease and how it shifted, if you have something that truly makes your heart sing and you want to go for it, find a way to go for it. And him writing me that email, I don't think I would have gotten that from him necessarily before he got sick. And it was the final piece in the puzzle to me, and it gave me that impetus to go off I think that's the right word, but it gave me that push to go to the edge of the cliff and jump, and either I'd fall or I'd fly. But it was that last little bit that was like, all right, see what happens, in a way that wasn't sure and wasn't certain.
Well, what happened is extraordinary. It's incredible to see your covers and all the magazines that you're in. Well, it's an incredible story. You're so inspiring, and I'm sure you're inspiring so many creatives out here today who are maybe not yet pursuing what they really feel deeply inside of them. So thank you for sharing your story, and congratulations.
Thank you.
About transcending and including, and you have transcended what past, some past issues with the festival. You've reached out to everyone. You have transcended and included. It's in their hands now. We can offer insight, but I'm so happy that you'll be running it and you'll be taking the reins. And here we go. Let's do it together.
Thank you so much. It's hard to stand and hear all that, but I really appreciate it. And it really is such a team effort. So I'm so grateful for all of our team members and also former staff members that have been here that have helped show the way. And thank you all. You're all so wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to build an amazing school and a women's clinic and a home for hundreds of kids. What she thought is, I can help this one kid. And then she did. And then what happened is there was another kid who needed help. And she was like, well, I can help that kid too. And then she and Tobe started to have a bigger conversation about what would happen if they continued to lead with this kind of love and this kind of faith that the work they could do in the world could actually make an impact. And this is what I think this is how it really always begins. And this is the only way we ever win against despair, which I think a lot of us are feeling, is, because of course it's overwhelming. Like, none of us are gonna stop the palm oil industry that's deforesting Indonesia by ourselves. None of us are going to bring an end to the suffering of animals or children who are orphans and starving. Not any one of us will solve that problem by ourselves, but every one of us can act and begin and do that bit of good that we can do, and then trust the thread. Trust, another way of putting it is keep walking the path, and you'll see that it will always lead to a bigger place. I must, pass through this crucible of self. I must suffer. What I must do must almost kill me in order for me to be truly born. And that is everywhere in every fairy tale. You will get that magic key, but guess where it is? It's in the witch's castle. It's, it's across the river, and you have to, you have to pass those ogres. You have to endure those blessings, those things that you think are curses will eventually become your deepest blessings. And those blessings might become your curse. And those stories, we can, all those epic tales from the fairy tales, we can place them onto almost every one of these documentaries we've seen. And to me, that gives me great hope. Because it does, I do feel like this festival is like gathering around the fire. Every year we say, okay, let us tell the stories of the hard things. And oh my goodness, how beautiful they are.
So beautiful. That's applause, please. Thank you. And the fire being so important, because the fire is a part of the story. We get burned. The only reason Emily got to the fuck yeah was because can you imagine if she made it on her first attempt? It would have been, oh, awesome. This was easier than I thought. And there would have been no film, no low point, no high point. It would have been, oh, cool, like I did it. The burning is essential. My informal uncle, everybody in Lebanon, I'm Lebanese, be afraid, be very afraid. It's Khalil Gibran, and he said the most massive characters are seared with scars. Everyone in these films is seared with scars. You're seared with scars. I mean, and you've just grown such a garden. I mean, you are wild because of those scars and the love you found in the midst of it. And I've got my share. I don't want to equate that to some of the harder traumas that some of us have gone through. But this is life. This is the essential part of life. And I believe it's the only way that the most tender aspects of the divine heart, of the human heart, could be made manifest. Right? You have to step into a need for your heart to explode with compassion. Right? Without the need, it's all love. Love is attraction. It is a force. It is drawing us. It is literally the force that holds the stars in the firmament, as we talked about, as Maya Angelou says. And that force of love can only be fully manifest if there is a pulling forth of it from its opposite, from a need. It's actually not its opposite, believe it or not. Its opposite is apathy. Love is movement, right? It is a movement towards, it is an attraction. Apathy is its opposite, not hate, because hate is still movement. Hate is still a movement. It may be away from, get away from me. I don't like what you stand for. I don't like what you look like. But love is a movement towards. So apathy is stillness. It is doing nothing. It is staying still. It is just, no movement. That's why love's opposite is apathy. So all these things in our lives are drawing us to something, right? It's that darkness is necessary. And if we can walk out of here just with that idea planted a little further, I know for myself, I may just be speaking for myself, then I can transcend and include all. Those I don't agree with. It says love your enemy. It doesn't say agree with your enemy. So you can disagree all you want. You can work for a different world, but it does say love your enemy. That means draw towards them. Understand their story. Tell me your story. I'm interested. How did you get here where you think that's okay? Right? I really want to know, as opposed to the judgment thought, how do you think that's okay? Now you're right, they're wrong, there's a wall. But I really want to know how you think it's okay to stop that immigrant, that daughter of yours, right? It was a daughter, right? From coming into this country. Tell me, because this is such a bright light that could learn and teach our kids, we could exchange like stories. How is that okay? I really want to know. If you really want to know, you've transcended and included.
She couldn't visit our country. She couldn't attend this beautiful film festival because she's a foreigner, because she's Nepali. And, you know, those kinds of, like, that's a loss to this community, like right now. She's not here. And I think if there are many stories like that, how many people are we, the choices our government is making for us are being excluded from, and what do we get excluded from by those kinds of decisions?
Yeah, I was telling you yesterday that we wouldn't all those cell phones that we're all addicted to. Was it from a Syrian immigrant who fathered Steve Jobs? How many Steve Jobs? How many new creative minds, intelligences, spirits are we leaving out of the conversation with people like Crystal, right? The younger generation who gets to create the next iteration of technology and how we use that technology to create a better society. They're being shut out. Do I hate those people? I don't. I try not to. I hate what they do. I do not like what they do. But I need to understand what it is, what fear it is, or what story it is that created that idea that that's better. Shutting that young woman out is better. It's hard. Dad, the environment he created. So he's developed this thing called narcissism. So, guess what's also in show business? Narcissism, right? It's about me, I'm the star of the show, and maybe you come to art with a humility, but then everybody rolls a red carpet out in front of you, you get all the resources, you get the dinner reservations, it's all about you, and guess what you may develop is a bit of a narcissistic tendency, which gets, expanded because of what's happening in show business. So guess why a lot of people hate Donald Trump in show business? Because they have the very thing that's not healed in them that he has. So I don't think we have the time. There's something I believe in you that exists in you that also exists in Trump that if you can accept, right? I can tell you that Donald Trump is really very small-minded at times, right? Guess what I know about myself. I can be really small-minded at times. So I've accepted that about myself. I look for it. I don't want to be. But as long as I can accept it in myself, I can accept it that, oh, he's small-minded, maybe all the time. Okay? So Donald Trump has a story. Here's my assignment for you. Go find about Donald Trump, the child. Because a child is appearing in front of us every day on television. You look at the tweets and the texts, and it is a 6-year-old boy who's saying, whatever you say about me is that's about you, right? That's the person.
My mother gave me all this love that's like in every cell of my body. And I said, like, if you're going to acknowledge the trauma and have that be part of your story, you have to acknowledge the love. Well, the other side of that, and I don't know if Terry's in the room, but she was on the panel yesterday. She said, I had a mother her mother also died young. I have a mother who loved me. I had a father who was the opposite. And the way that I came to forgive my father for the many, many crimes he committed against me and my siblings and my mother, and I truly did come to forgiveness with him, is two things. I understood that he actually was doing the very best he could do. I genuinely think we all are. And sometimes that's the best is really a shitty, it's not very good at all. And I also think that I learned something really important from him. The lessons, I call him my dark teacher. The lessons that I learned of like love and generosity and optimism and kindness from my mother, I learned cruelty and harm and rage from my father. And to take those things into my life and say, well, what do those things offer me? How do I turn that curse of my father into a blessing that I give the world? And so I called both my brother and sister when he was running for first, and I said to them, and they have very different lives than me, my brother and sister. Completely, they're literally in different, a sort of different slice of the culture that I'm in. Who does he remind you of? Dad. They both said, unprompted. We all got it. He's a narcissist, a classic bully, abuser, narcissist who was bullied and abused himself as a child. And it did bring me to that place of just being able to transfer some of that hate and just go, pity. I feel sorry for you, small-hearted man, who's doing the best you can do and you're not very good. you know? And that's just where I have to park it. I don't think I'm all the way where Tom is, where I'm like, Mr. Trump, I love you. But, but I can say, Mr. Trump, you poor little baby man.
At the Kids Kino. Yeah, I love Kids Kino. Don't sleep on that one. And our icebreaker tonight, if you've been to one of these before, you know that we always ask an icebreaker to all of our speakers, and so that kind of just sets us all on equal ground as we get started. My question for everyone tonight was, what is the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given you? Ooh, yeah.
2,000 asylum seekers and refugees floating in makeshift rafts. And the rescue organization's job that I'm working with is to try to evacuate as many of these folks as possible from the rafts before they sink or someone perishes from exposure. And so we jump on a Zodiac and we're motoring out to this first makeshift raft and we're filming. And as we approach the first raft, some of these asylum seekers get pushed off, and then a couple actually jump into the water trying to reach the safety of the Zodiac. And as we're witnessing this, I realize that a couple of them can't swim, and that they're starting to sink, that they're going to drown. And in this moment, I realize we have this decision to make, where we can either continue to do what we're doing, continue to film in this very sort of observational, cinema verite, purist style, or we can intervene. And at that exact moment, into my mind flashed the car accident in Santa Monica. And I remembered freezing up, and I remembered the shame, and I remembered the fear, and it triggered me. And I looked over to my DP and I waved at him. And we put our cameras down, and we started pulling people out of the sea. And that night, after sort of the evacuation was complete, I thought back to that moment, the flashback to the car accident in Santa Monica, and I was suddenly strangely thankful. I was thankful for the trauma of the experience so many years ago. I was thankful for the trigger of the flashback. I was thankful somehow that the trauma of so many years before had awakened in me a strength that I didn't know I had. And I felt that finally this wound of bearing witness and the shame of inaction had finally been healed. Thank you.